Hello everyone, this is TDG Industries. Today we're going to go over Java installation and the basics of Java. In order for Java to run, we need to do a few simple installations on our computer. First, we must install the JDK, which is the Java Developer Kit, and we need a compiler that will take the Java code that we write and it will compile it into code that is readable by the computer. So here we have the JDK framework. If you're using Netbeans, it's automatically included in the Netbeans download. But if you're using a different compiler, you're going to need to go to the JDK framework and download that and install it separately. So as for the purposes of this demonstration, I went ahead and downloaded the Netbeans Java SE. This is simple. We're going to use it for Netbeans platform, and it includes the Java SE and Java FX frameworks. So I've already downloaded it. Let's go ahead and install Netbeans. And it is saying that we need the Java framework. So we're going to go ahead and download the Java framework, JDK framework. And if I could type, that would be a little bit better. So we go to the Java SE downloads page. And we want the LTS for long-term support, so let's go ahead and download that. And here I'm on a Windows platform, so we're going to go ahead and run, this is the 64-bit. I'm just going to download the exe file. Okay, the Java JDK framework has finished, and so now we're going to go ahead and install that prior to installing Netbeans. I guess we did need it. It's not included in the framework. So we'll go ahead and download and install the JDK Java SE Development Kit framework first. You can install the features or all the sub-features. We're going to go ahead and leave it by default. Click Next. Notice that it's installing on my C drive. So we're almost completed with the SDK framework. Now that it's completed, we can go on and install the Netbeans. So I'll go ahead and launch the Netbeans, run it as administrator. We may need to restart the machine so that way it recognizes that the JDK is installed. So let's go ahead and restart. Okay, the computer's coming back up now. So once we get back into the machine, it should have the JDK recognized and started as a service. So we can still go ahead and try and attempt to install the Netbeans application now. Okay, so doing a little research, I found that we actually needed the Java Development Kit 8. So I'm going to go ahead and download the 64-bit application, and we will go ahead and install that once it's completed. Okay, while this download is finishing, I want to show you kind of the error message that we're getting here, and this is important in programming just to read any error message that you're getting. This says that JDK or newer is required for installing Netbeans IDE. We just installed JDK 11, but let's go ahead. We're running Java JDK 8 now. We've got about 2 seconds left on the download, so we'll go ahead and kick this off. And then while we're waiting for the installation, back to the Netbeans. Since I've already downloaded it, but you could start attempting to download the Netbeans while you're installing the JDK. Here, notice that the options for the JDK 8 are a little bit different from the JDK 11 we previously installed. So we'll go ahead and run those. Okay, now that the JDK 8 has been implemented, let's go ahead and install the rest of Java. This is the JRE. This is also important for the compiler and the Netbeans application. So this is just the second process of installing the JDK. Once the complete JDK installation is finished, we'll progress to the Netbeans installation. Okay, so we have finished installing the JDK 8. Let's go ahead and progress to our Netbeans. As you notice now, the installation recognizes that JDK 8 is installed on the machine, and so it will progress further. So now we'll go ahead and go through the prompts of the Netbeans IDE installer. After we install Netbeans, we can go progress to installing or creating our first application, the Hello World application. So here it does want to point to where the JDK is installed. That should be default. If you have it on a different drive, go ahead and map it there, and then the location that we're going to install Netbeans at the top. We'll click Next. If you want to check for updates, you can go ahead and check that. It'll show you the total installation size, just basic information, and we'll install it. So while this installs, let's talk about our first application. Our first application will be a Hello World. Basically, we will write a script that will take the prompt Hello World using the system out, and it will print to the console Hello World. Now, it's important to note that there are 3 different prints that we can use. We can use the system out print line, that's print ln. We can use system out print and system out print f, which is format print. There is some differences between the 3. The print line makes a new line character, so the new line would be similar to putting a \n. The system out print does not have a new line when it prints to the screen, so anything after it would be printed right beside it. And the system out print f, for formatting, if we added any strings or variables, which I'll show in later videos, we could format it using this method here. So let's go back to our application and start up a new project once the installation is finished. Okay, Netbeans is finished, so let's go ahead and start our application. So when we run Netbeans, go ahead and start it. It'll bring up the generic page of all the projects that we have, and we're going to go ahead and create a new project. Now there are 2 buttons at the top that you will notice. One is a folder, and one looks like a piece of paper. Just note, when you're creating a brand new folder from scratch, we're going to use the one that looks like the folder. When you're creating a new application within the project, we'll use the new file, which is the file which goes inside the project. So file, folder. So we'll go ahead and start a new project. We're going to do a Java application, and we're going to name it Hello World. Click Finish. It will create a class called Hello World within our project, and that main class is what we will use to run our application. So here we have on the left hand panel our Hello World. This has all of the classes that will be within our project, so in the later lessons I'll teach you how to make new classes. But here we are importing the package Hello World. That's the one that we just created. We have the public class that we created called Hello World, and within the class we have the public static void main string and arguments, which this is the default. We don't need to change this for now. It will be which our programmer run first thing when we compile the program. So back to our tutorial here. We're going to just go ahead and use the system out print line. And within the quotation marks, this is what will actually be printed to the screen. You'll type in Hello World. It's important that every new line has a semicolon that tells the program that you're finishing that line, and it can compile the next line. So we've got system output, which is out, and print. Print to the screen on a new line, Hello World. So up here at the kind of in the middle screen, we have a tool that looks like a play button. This will compile it. We could also go to run and then run project. Once you do that, you'll notice down at the bottom it starts progressing as it's building, and it will build and output to the screen. So we have the console here, and you see it put Hello World. So let's go ahead and put another system.out, and let's do the print method this time. Hello World. and we'll just put parentheses 2, so that way we can differentiate where it will be in the console. And we'll go ahead and run it. Notice how it looks the same, hello world and hello world 2. But notice that the build successful here went right afterwards. That's because we didn't print a new line. So if we wanted to print a new line within the print without using the ln, we could do the \n. Run it, and notice how it created a line after, and now the build successful is at the bottom. So that's kind of the difference between a print and a print line. So let's say we wanted to print hello world and then on the next line, but we wanted to continue that same line. So we could put on the next line, we could do another system out dot print, and we could put this is a continuation of the second hello world. And now if we run it, you'll see that because I used the print twice instead of the print line, it'll run, and okay, so it's telling me there's an error. So somewhere I put an error in my line. You can see up here I have the print. I don't have the ending parentheses, so it's telling me there's an error with my code. So let's go ahead and fix that, and we'll get into debugging a little bit later. But you see how this is my first print, hello world 2, and you can see my continuation. There's no new line, so it just continues that same line of code. Just a little formatting technique that we can use to further progress our code. That's the basics of creating an application. In the next lesson, we'll go ahead and talk about variables, how we can initiate variables, declare different variable types. We'll talk about the declarations, and hope to see you there.